What's up, everyone? Welcome to Around the ACL. Michelle Thompson here with Trey Ryder and Wally K9 Castler, and we are coming off of signature number 1. So for Trey, I know were really looking forward to this. Wally and I worked some events previous to this, but this was kind of. I remember back when I wasn't doing opens, it's like you're like, just get to the signatures already. I'm ready to go. So good to have you on the broadcast again. I'm looking forward to watching those when they re-air. But I did get to see some of it from the audience. Looked like some great games, but we're going to get into all of it. We're going to obviously recap all of the winners. We're going to talk about current team standings and round up with buy or sell. But yeah, I'll start with you, Trey. Though, how would you overall big picture rate the weekend? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, first one, great learning weekend because we learned so many different things about players and who's going to be good this year, who's going to be near the top. We learned about how we run events and things that we change that we like and maybe things that we want to tweak a little bit and, learn just, how the season is going to progress. So I am worn out. I'm exhausted. I got back yesterday and need a nap, but I haven't had time to get one. So we're just powering through. But it was great. It was a fantastic weekend. I thought it was. We learned a lot of things about how we can be better as a team and how we can push forward. So really, really just excited about the rest of the season and continuing to see if some of these players will continue to do as well as they are.
I know you said it's a learning weekend, but I got to tell you, the setup, like the broadcast court with the risers and then the live stream courts, loved it. I thought that looked so cool. It created such a cool element so people could be up on the deck and they could watch either court. And it just felt like we were all right there where all the action was.
Yeah, and that's the idea. We want to keep that. There may be tweaks in orientation and location, exactly how the decks lay out, but the idea of having the viewing deck in which you can watch either court and be courtside and having more of an open field to the broadcast court with the lights on instead of a dark corner, intense lighting. I mean, I think that is something that we definitely want to keep going moving forward.
Very cool. Wally, how about you? Big picture thoughts.
Yeah, I actually think that the lighting worked out pretty well. I was saying to somebody at one point, like leaving the lights on didn't really affect the output of the broadcast that much. I think it looked really well from what I saw on TV. Maybe a tweak on the intensity of the t-shirt cannon, turn that down a little bit so that we don't keep that shooting on the other court. But that's a learning lesson. We move on.
At least it didn't hit, like, it wasn't mid-throw. Like, it was
No.
right before the throw. All of a sudden, I thought it was a flag. I was like, "Is an official on the court? Like, what is happening?" No, it's just a flying T-shirt cam coming
No, that
over.
was pretty cool. I still wish
we'll have to
we
adjust on the cannon for sure.
Yeah, just little adjustments on the can. We're fine. But I think the layout was absolutely perfect. I wish that we could have a little bit more of a background as far as like maybe bringing the vendors over a little bit closer, things like that. I think that we need to make it more known that the players can just go out there and watch the tournament. I think that the action was pretty far away from the live feed court. And I'm not sure people just didn't know they could come over there and watch or what the deal was. But once that place is packed, it's going to be an amazing setup for the future. And I can't wait to see it. The live feed courts, back to back, getting a little bit of broadcast time love, if you will. I think that was pretty cool for us. I like how you guys had your little corner where you were doing your special segments with us in the background. I think at one point the camera was on Trey and Jeff, and in the background you could see me beating Jake Brandon 1-on-1 this weekend. So we're starting the season off hot. I'm up 1-0 on Jake. We got
Had to get
5
that
more
in there.
to go. And as far as the round limited format goes, I think it was perfect for signature number 1. I don't think it would have ran as smoothly if we would have done to, all the way to 21. I think that we would have been way behind on a lot of different things. So it was a good start for us to kind of feel out how things were going to go. And then the action on the courts, we've been talking all season long about who's going to step up at the right moments. And I think that we saw the best out of all these players. There were a few players that kind of let us down, laid a few stinkers. But when Meesh and I were commentating singles, I mean, we just saw what, Meesh? Everybody over a 10.5 PPR. I think the lowest PPR on our court tray was like a 10.33. And we had multiple people over an 11. So whenever you're talking about next year, finding out who are the top 100 pros that we're going to get, this is the type of caliber that you guys are going to have to bring to the table if you want to advance to the top 100 next season. And if you're outside and you're trying to win your spot, you're somebody who's, winning a state right now you're top 5 in the state and you're going to go to that tournament at the end of Worlds. You have that much more that you need to practice to bring it to the table. Doubles are a few surprises, but for the most part, we'll get into it here in a little bit. Everybody brought their A game, and I was happy to see it, from the players to the crowd that was there to the directors to everybody that was involved. I think it was a really, really successful signature number 1.
Absolutely. Let's get into it. So for pro doubles, of course, we had Mark Richards and Tony Smith. We can discuss whether or not we consider that a four-peat. I mean, it's opens prior to this. It's first signature, so that's up to you guys to decide. And then pro singles, a huge win for Gabriel Clausen. Trey, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll start on doubles. Mark Richards and Tony Smith, 4 straight wins now. They won 3 consecutive opens, followed by this first signature of the year. And, this is super team, right? That's exactly just who they are now. I think there's no question about it. The question is, how many are they going to win, right? I mean, we were kind of having this debate, I think, at dinner afterwards, right? And we were trying to figure out, it's like, is this team one of the best or the best all time? Now, if we go back just a couple of years ago, you had Eddie Grindersleeve and Caleb Batson win the last 2 nationals of the year, followed by the World Championships. And we know good and well that the World Championships are going to be valued more than anything else, right? I think the question is, if this team goes on to win the World Championship, if they also secure another signature before then, I don't know how you don't turn around and say this is like the best team of all time. Now they have to continue to go in that direction if they want to get there. But what's so interesting to me is Tony Smith kind of had the MVP weekend, right? If you were to fill out an MVP ballot, to me right now, he's number 1 on that list. But I think in doubles, it was Mark Richards that helped him get across the finish line and get the win. I was actually looking at statistics, pulling all of those, getting ready for the broadcast. Here's some interesting stats about Mark Richards and Tony Smith from this weekend. First of which, in the final 4 of doubles on TV, Tony Smith had a negative DPR. That means people were beating him on that final broadcast court. It was Mark Richards who kind of led to get to the finish line. However, it wasn't Mark Richards the entire time. It was just when they needed it most on that broadcast court. That's when he got him there. Another fun fact, Mark Richards and Tony Smith did not give up more than 10 points all weekend in doubles. That is also, I know it's a round limited format. I know you're not going to have as many points scored, but to not give up 10 points to anybody is still an incredible feat. Averaged above a 10.0 PPR, above a half a point DPR, over a 50% four-bagger percentage. These guys were about as good as you can get statistically, mentally, across the board, and they just simply got it done. If I'm adding one other, call out, is the team that finished second place, Jacob Trzynski and Jamie Graham. In the semifinals in particular, Jacob Trzynski has a foot foul. Close, but a foot foul, right? I think it could have been very easy for that game to just simply implode. I've seen Trzynski, you get him one bad thing in the past, and all of a sudden the world is out to get him and nothing else matters. They were able to bounce back. And although they didn't get a win, I think the positive is it took a team that's won 4 straight events for them to get in the way of Jacob Trzynski and Jamie Graham not getting across the doubles finish line. And then maybe the second MVP of the weekend would be Jamie Graham. He was the only player to finish top 5 in both singles and doubles. It took an incredible run by Matt Guy in singles to keep Jamie Graham out of that final 4 of the broadcast, and then finishing second place alongside Trzynski. I think it just tells me that Jamie Graham is going to be a force to be reckoned with in both singles and doubles this season. Going to be really, really tough to beat. So maybe my underdogs of the weekend, Riker Wells, Logan Dupler, Austin Kippel, and Gabriel Clausen. Maybe starting with Kippel and Dupler. Dupler lived up to the hype that has been surrounding the hatred coming out of Jake Brandon's mouth about him. So he's been really, really good. But Austin Kippel was my biggest shock, because Austin Kippel, I expected to just get blown out of the water on the broadcast court. And again, sorry to say that. If you look at him statistically, he was ranked in the 200s in PPR for the pro division. In the 200s to make it all the way to that broadcast court, right? And I'm not saying that PPR is everything by all means, but at the same time, You can't be 200th in PPR and be in one of the best players in the world. It just can't happen. Even if you look at guys like Eric Davis and Ethan Walker, who was historically some of the best differential players out there and big game winners and have low PPRs, we're still talking top 100, top 75. We're not talking top 200 type of deal. So Kipple elevated to a level that he has not thrown very often. And for that, he deserves some kudos. Riker Wells, if you had told us 8 or 10 months ago that he were to win a bracket at the first signature, I don't think we would have been shocked. But once this 8 months went by and we saw what he did or really didn't do at the Opens, that to me was a big shock, and kudos to him. But it all then leads to the biggest underdog and win of the weekend goes to Gabriel Clausen. Someone I look back through his list of what he did at this event. He loses early to Damon Dennis, then goes on a run beating Logan Chamberlain, beating Damon Dennis again, Trey Birchfield, Gavin Cano twice, Eric Davis, the shootout master, Matt Guy, the GOAT, and arguably the best or second best player in the world, Tony Smith, 25-0 in the finals. That's a run that should be celebrated. I know it's round limited format, and so everybody will always look at that in a specific way. But the fact of the matter remains, he should be number one on everybody's Rookie of the Year list. Spoiler for our segment later. But I was shocked. I didn't expect Gabriel Clausen to do what he's doing. Makes me eat some words there, but a fantastic showing by him on the weekend.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Wally, I think you'd agree that nobody was more shocked than Riker Wells himself.
Yeah, I was going to say, I disagree with Trey. If you would have told me 8 months ago Riker Wells was going to make a broadcast, I would have disagreed with you. So I would have definitely been shocked. As a matter of fact, he was so shocked. He had his flight booked for 4:00. He was all ready to fly home, and then he had to change his flight to stay on the broadcast. I don't even think he brought extra bags just in case that would have came up as a situation where he needed to switch bags, because he would have been a bottom seat. I believe he was somewhere in the hundreds. But yeah, shout out to Riker Wells this weekend. I mean, one of my guys, known for quite a while when I moved to Kansas City, and he just basically showed up at the right time. He's been on a tear. He's been putting in the work, and it was good to see him get the reward. Everyone in the Midwest was really happy to see it. I'm going to talk about Matt Guy for a second. In singles, Matt Guy shows that he always is a force to be reckoned with. No matter when you look at the brackets, you see Matt Guy, you're afraid of that path. You could put him against a 1 seed. You can put him against a 30 seed. It doesn't matter. You always have a chance against Matt Guy because of his style of play. But if he gets on that heater, he is a force to be reckoned with. There was one moment that I want to talk about in particular where the game wasn't out of reach yet. It was like 4-0, I think, against Gabriel Clausen. And Matt Guy hits a backside airmail. And then Gabriel Clausen pushes the pile, and Matt has 3 bags sitting on front of the hole. And if Matt Guy throws a blocker there in that situation, it might have been 8-0, I think. And if Matt Guy throws a blocker in that situation, he's going to force Gabriel Clausen to hit either a nasty relect or a crazy airmail to drag everything in. And Matt Guy elects to go for the airmail, knocks in Gabriel's bags, and then Gabriel ends up stealing 2 points out of that round. In the very next round, Matt is like, oh, I'm out of it. And now he throws a first bag blocker, and what happens? He gets 2 points out of the round. So, Matt Guy, I know you don't want to do it, but you have to throw a blocker. Please start throwing a blocker. It works. It helps you maximize your rounds. And then if you could put that with the rest of his game, Matt Guy is going to be unstoppable the rest of the season. I love to see what I get out of him. Tony Smith, whenever it comes to these signature events, he elevates his game a lot. And Tony Smith was coming into these signature events pretty hot. So it was nice to see that he can continue to step up when the big stage is around, making it in both singles and doubles. And then Gabriel Clausen, I seen somebody say on the internet, the biggest upset of all time. Now, Gabriel Clausen has been good for a while. The only reason he's not a pro is because of his age. He's been beating names like Devin Harbaugh, Ryan Smith, Trey Birchfield. I mean, Gabriel Clausen has gone up against some of the best in the world. The only person that could stop him is Trey Ryder in the competitive division a few years ago. Other than that, nobody has a chance against this kid. He's lights out. Okay, so it's not a big upset. It's just the way that the cookie crumbles. In doubles, though, Mark and Tony, they've been the hottest team on the planet down the stretch, and it was great to see that they can continue it over no matter what the format, round limited format or race to 21. Mark and Tony stepped their game up at the right time. Jamie and Jacob, they're clicking a lot faster than I thought they would. I kind of thought it would take them a little bit of time to get going. We've seen them a few opens. They looked really good, but there were some hiccups that they had. Whenever they came to our court for the King Seat match, they got blown out by Logan Chamberlain and Justin Burton Jr. I think it was like 14-0. JBJ and Logan Chamberlain had a perfect game through 8 rounds or 9 rounds. And then Logan ultimately finishes with a perfect game. So getting destroyed and then coming back and being able to win game number 2 to punch their ticket to TV shows the composure that they had at that moment, pushes them to the big stage. And I think they did look pretty good on the big stage. Trey talked about it. The foot foul. I was on the other end. I think I was sitting next to Jeremiah and Meesh and my buddy Brian. We're all like, this is it. This is about to be fireworks city the rest of this match. And credit to him, he was able to rebound from it. And then lastly, I want to give credit to Austin Kipple. Maybe it's the K9 jersey. I'm not sure, but he brought his A game this weekend. Logan Dupler, we've been talking about the entire season. He's doing really good, but he's doing really good without Austin Kipple. What's it going to look like whenever we get Austin Kipple next to him? Well, it looked pretty good. In teams event, Austin Kipple was throwing lights out. So it was good to see him actually put together a bracket final. And then the last thing I want to talk about, Gavin Cano and Sammy Soto. I think they looked very, very good the entire weekend until they got to the broadcast court. I think when they got to the broadcast court, they played very conservative. If you go to our court earlier, they have those bags that are just hanging on the backside of the hole. It's going to take an airmail to drag it, to bring it in, just to wash out the round. And they would shoot that without hesitation. You go to the broadcast court, they shied away from it. They were okay giving up 2 points and then 2 points and then 2 points. And next thing you know, they're down 8-0. And now the panic starts to set in because you're on the big stage. I would like to see them play the entire tournament the same exact way. Play aggressive, have faith in yourself, and be able to hit those type of shots. Other than that, phenomenal weekend. Loved what I saw out of everybody.
Yeah, I knew you had to get in that jersey for Austin Kipple. I'll remind you that he did not wear that on the broadcast.
Slipped out. Wasn't premeditated at all.
He couldn't stop harping on that. Well, yeah, very impressive by everyone there. Being round limited, we know going into it that there is a possibility that we're going to see some names we wouldn't expect. It happens every single time we have a round limited format. But what was interesting to me is, besides Logan Dupler and Austin Kipple, not the case in doubles, just chalk, all giants making it through. Yep. So as much as people want to say that round limited is completely different than the to 21 game, well, look who made it to the finals in doubles. I mean, it was exactly who you would expect. And even Logan Dupler, I mean, that's a name we've been talking about for a while. So I don't think it's as far off as people like to say, but everyone's got to have something to hate. And you took away the ability to step over the line, so they had to go into something else. So there you go, everyone. There's your gift. You can complain about round limited.
Yeah. Real quick, also to Tommy Sliker. Tommy Sliker going through his bracket in singles. Nobody expected that. Ultimately got double dip, but Tommy Sliker is, I mean, to be honest, he's getting no love. Here we go again.
Got no love.
He actually deserves it, so I want to give a quick shout out to him.
Good call. Tommy gets the love, Sliker.
Yeah. It was interesting to see. Tommy just I kept looking at his bracket, and I was like, "Is Tommy Sliker still winning?" And he just kept going. And look, he's a Rock Hill guy, so I see him at the events, and it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't shock me that he's going to make a run, just because he plays really, really well. The problem with Tommy is it's kind of he's just one of those guys where as soon as something goes wrong, though, he almost kind of just checks out, and so
I tried.
Yeah, exactly. It's well, good effort. And so I don't know. I've never seen someone get down 10-0 and just be like, all right, I forfeit the rest of the game. I don't have it right now. So he's just got a little bit of that type of mentality, but he put it all together and had a really, really deep run. So
I will tell you,
really impressed. Yeah.
That might not be conscious because, we all have our nervous system responses, and that's the flight response, right? Get me out of this game as quickly as possible. So it may not actually be in his control, because once your stress levels increase, you're going to get fight, flight, or freeze, right? So a lot of people will get the fight, which is the best one, because they're like, I'm going to fight back and win this. But if you get the flight, yeah, you're like, I need this game to be over as quickly as possible so I can run out of here. So that could be
Yeah,
what's happening there.
Yeah, it makes sense. And maybe one more thing, just touching on Matt Guy. I think he was locked in. He had the mentality right, and it's tough to boil everything down to two bags. But really, we're talking about. I don't think we can downplay what Matt Guy accomplished this weekend just because they started the game 6-0. I think everybody would agree. Now, whether or not, Wally, I think your analysis was perfect, right? In that situation, he should have blocked, moved on, whatever. But if he doesn't start that game 6-0, I don't think he has that type of mentality through the second half of the game. I think he gave it away a little bit there, and I think he'll learn from that. But the other thing to take in mind is, like, Brett Guy is starting to throw well again. And I was worried about Matt and Brett just saying, look, even if Matt is throwing really well, Brett is not at a level right now where they can compete. That mentality went out the window this weekend. I thought they were going to screw around and win a bracket in doubles. I mean, they were throwing really, really well. And so, rankings will come out here and get processed with the bonus points in the next, day or so. We should have a new number one in Gabriel Clausen and number two in Tony Smith. But Matt Guy, both in singles and doubles, like, based on what I've seen so far, I probably can't argue that he'll be on my MVP ballot right now coming out of signature number one. Because for me, it's probably obviously Tony Smith. It's got to have Gabriel Clausen on there. Jamie Graham deserves to be on there. Is the last two kind of rounding out Mark Richards, maybe Matt Guy, right? That might be giving a little bit too much credit.
Kano finished second in his bracket and then made broadcast in doubles, so got to give him credit.
Yeah, no, and so Kano is, what I'm saying is all those guys right near the top, and Matt Guy is at least in the conversation, which when you're starting the season, if you're in the conversation, hey, that's at least a great starting point to lift off.
Real quick before we move on to women's, seniors, and juniors, I want your sort of knee-jerk reaction. Trey, did Jeremiah Ellis and Devin Harbaugh finish where you thought they would, lower, higher?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. Probably, I expected a little bit better. I did. Okay. I think we can all say, like, look, we haven't seen the best out of them, right? And over the past couple of months, but at the same time, it's like, these are big game guys. Like, they just show up when it matters most. So what did they finish? Like 7th in bracket or something like that? I mean, I expected maybe
we never had him on our court, Wally, did we?
We started the live feed with him. I can't remember who they played.
Yeah, I think they finished like 7th.
That's right, we did.
Bracket maybe. But at the same time, like, I expect a little bit better out of them. They have the ability to play at a really high level, and they need to be there. Now, I do think they're starting to figure it out, though. I liked what I saw from Harbaugh this weekend, even though he didn't have deep runs or games. So I was like, ooh, that looks like Harbaugh, right? And that's what we need to see as we get through the year. It may not be the worst thing in the world for them to eat a little bit of humble pie, right? And give them a little bit of motivation being down in the standings and everybody write them off. So maybe I should just say Devin Harbaugh and Jeremiah Ellis are washed and they can't do anything. So maybe that'll help.
I believe last year Devin Harbaugh and Jeremiah Ellis both took off whenever we said, does Jeremiah and does Devin Harbaugh have a finishing problem? And the next thing you know, they rattle off like next 4 wins or something.
So Jeremiah Ellis, Devin Harbaugh washed. They can't do anything, and they're a disappointment.
Same question to you, Wally. Did they finish where you thought?
Coming into this one, yes. I think that I didn't think they were going to win a bracket. I expected them to have signs of greatness, but then also struggle quite a bit because when we look at the open season, we didn't really see too much of them. And they did great individually, but when it comes to bracket play and learning how to finish out a tournament against top-tier talent, it's something you have to put yourself into. I've been telling a few elite players that I haven't seen travel yet. Just come out, just play, just get your butt kicked. You have to experience the environment. You have to experience the tournament to know what you're up against. And we didn't really see too much of that this year from Jeremiah and Devin. Now, I think that this is going to be the wake-up call they needed, and I expect better things going forward. But this is the start I expected from them.
Okay. All right, for women's, seniors, and juniors, we had Cheyenne Bubenheim take singles, Kaylee Hunter and Cameron Belvin take doubles. For senior singles, Damon Dennis, senior doubles, Donald Cupp and Dan Schulten. And then for junior singles, Tony Forbes, and doubles, Sammy Soto and Ryan Trader. Trey, what do you think?
Well, I got to start with Cheyenne, right? Cheyenne Bubenheim comes in, and I loved her interview after she won because Jeff stole my question. So thanks, Jeff. I had to think of something like on the spot. I was like, I know exactly what I want to say. And then he just takes my question. Anyway, he asked her, he said, you came in here and you just kind of dominated this. You didn't really let anybody get close. Everybody's been talking about, so-and-so is going to dethrone Cheyenne. Do you listen to all that? And the first word she said was, absolutely, I listened to it, right? So you could tell that she had been hearing nonstop about all these different players and how Miranda was right on her heels, how Caitlin Allshouse was going to, come in and be this new face that was going to take it over, and Sarah, it was going to be her year, all of that. And she just said, everybody, you can sit down and shut your pie holes. Okay. Cause she just, she did everything, right? She threw she was going through so well. She threw one little hop bag and, jumps over the side of a thing. And I get a text from Ethan Walker, like 3 seconds later, I told you she can roll. And it's like, no, okay. We're not going to have this game. We're not going to play this game. All right. Cheyenne's not a roll bag player. She got this little hop shot, but she hit everything. Like there wasn't anything, there's really no analysis of the game to be had. Everything that was on the table was there and she executed it at a super high level. She was unbelievable. And, I think it's going to be tough. She's going to come out here and want to win every single one of them. And I think it's going to be really tough for anybody to jump in and take that from her. So, that's just kind of what I saw out of that. On the senior side, it kind of felt the same way with Damon Dennis, right? Damon Dennis foot fouls. Like I've never heard of a Damon Dennis coming close to a foot foul. And it was egregious at that, like half a foot over the line type of foot foul. And he gets the job done and bounces back from that. But he looked like he was in lockstep control. So, and then Tony Forbes comes in and he wins junior singles, which, you can argue if it should have been Gabriel Clausen, but I think, him, Zach Aiken, Sammy Soto, Ryan Trader are always going to be kind of those favorites there at the end. And so in a way, juniors was kind of chalk too. So at least on the singles side of things, it felt very chalk.
Real quick, Trey, just before you move on to doubles, Tony told me that him and Gabriel, it's 50-50, like in terms of their win-loss record. Like he's like, it's literally roll the dice. Any one of us, like we win about the same against each other.
Yeah. And then that makes sense. It was, it was just a battle back and forth. I think, it was interesting just to see them compete. But in the end, yeah, I think those three, at least on the singles, felt pretty chalk. A little bit of variation in doubles. Good to see Kaylee Hunter kind of get back into some into a groove alongside Cameron Belvin. Kind of same for Cameron Belvin too. I think it was important for both of them to show some level of consistency there and power through that. And then on the junior doubles side, yeah, Sammy Soto and Ryan Trader. That's kind of like a super team in itself. So overall, like really, really impressed. But mostly I think the story for me goes to Cheyenne and the dominance and the foot down that she put on the entire women's field, saying this is still my show.
Wally, your thoughts?
Yeah, kind of starting there with Cheyenne as well. It looked effortless. There was never a moment she felt like she was in trouble. She didn't show much expression. I think the only thing, I even saw her throw blocks and set up airmail situations. The only thing I think she could work on now maybe is probably like become a heel, maybe turn the villain, start trash talking a little bit to the crowd and to her, like, who's the greatest I am, type of moment. I don't know. She looks effortless right now. I love that the way the women's division is shaping up. There's a lot of these names we could talk about. But when it came to the big stage, it was no question at all. From the second the first bag let go that Cheyenne was locked in. Seniors, Damon Dennis, what a legend. He got done. He won. He came over to us, and he basically had everybody sign his plaque. It doesn't matter if you're a pro, if you're around, whatever. He asked you to sign his plaque, and I thought that was a really cool fan engagement moment there with Damon Dennis. What a legend. Love talking to that guy. During that TV timeout, it saved him because he foot fouled, and he was shook. He came over to us and he said, that foot foul got me. I said, this isn't your first time being down, dude. What are you doing? He just kept on shaking his head. But it goes to show you guys, if you're on the broadcast or anywhere, we got officials out now. It doesn't matter if you're the sweetest player in the world like Sam Finley or if you're one of the legends of the game like Damon Dennis. You step over that line, we're calling it, and we're taking that bag off the board. So kudos to Michael as well, memorizing all the layout and everything and making sure that the calls were all correct on the broadcast. But coming back from that timeout, I almost feel like Pat Sim was affected for the foot foul more than Damon was, because Pat came back that very next round. I think he threw 3 bags off to the right, and he just could not get in his headspace to get back in the center of the board. Every time he threw a bag, he would look over at Michael like, "Am I okay?" I'm like he's not even stepping, but he's worried about going over the line. So I mean, that's something the players are going to have to keep in mind. Steve Schrader came up to me and asked me why I didn't pick him to win. And I said, well, you smashed your finger loading the truck. You had your thumb in a Frito-Lay bag because you were worried about dripping blood all over the place. I'm not going to pick you. And he's like, I'm good now. I was like, okay, well, I'm still picking Taman Dennis to win it. But it was good to see Donald Cupp and Dan Schulten, the 2 Michigan guys, team up and just continue to make the seniors division a little bit more fun this year as well. So love what I'm getting out of the women's and the seniors division and the juniors division. Completely wide open. You want to talk about Tony Fovers and Gabriel Clausen, and then Ryan Trader and Sammy Soto, but there are probably 15 to 20 more juniors that could have won. And the one thing I will say, and I've said it before, is Ryan Trader wants it. I love seeing him come over to me and ask me to put him on the live feed court, because that tells me he's not afraid. It seemed like a few months ago he was shying away from it. Now he's embracing it, and I love to see that he's getting back to form at the right time.
Yeah, and not everybody wanted to be there. So learn from the kid, people. Come on now. Got to get there eventually if you want to make it to the ends. All right, moving on to teams. We'll start out with the National West. We've got the Arizona Burn at 15-5, Cali Slingers at 14-11, Las Vegas High Rollers at 8-7, and the Colorado Timber at 6-9. Trey, thoughts?
Yeah, first, just overarching on teams. First time that we've had this mix and match of different formats. And again, remember, these guys are going to play, 15 series across the season. And each one of these series is just 5 games. You have the 2 singles matches, the doubles match, the tandem doubles, and the crew cup. So it's definitely some variety. I also like it because this year people can switch up lineups really. Like last year, it was like, okay, it's really just about putting a person with a different doubles person, right? This time it can be like, okay, maybe this person actually does better in a crew cup environment. Maybe this person, could do better in tandem doubles or singles, right? I mean, there really could be some adjustments that are going to be made. So I really like that. And that should be, a call to action on how people should outlook this. Yeah, look, National West, the Burn, second best record in the entire league, and they're ahead of the Slingers at 14-11. I think Burn and Slingers being the top 2 teams, not a huge surprise. Maybe had some different expectations for the High Rollers, but all of those teams kind of just sitting in a decent spot right now. But for the Burn in particular, they've assembled a really good team, and they've started to at least hit a groove a little bit. So I wouldn't expect much lineup change come for them, and it'll be a good opportunity for us to see them on the TV broadcast court come Mesa. They'll be playing in front of their home crowd.
Sorry.
I feel like she's talking. I don't know.
Every time. All right, National Central, Wally, Bully Baggers at 8-7, Mays at 7-8, Colonels at 8-12, and I don't even want to say it, Spinners 1-14. Eek.
I believe they pronounced that oof. I mean, the shocking one here for me is the Colonels. I only got to – it's actually going to be a little bit harder for us this year as analysts to kind of follow teams, because they have the broadcast going at the same time as the live feed courts, and then the very next day they're spread out the court as we're tearing down. So it was kind of hard for me to follow teams this weekend. But the Colonels, what I saw looked amazing. I mean, on paper coming out of the draft, I thought that Matt Guy did a great job of adjusting. He wasn't afraid to get rid of, an OG like Damon Dennis. And the youth, the one match I saw was Cash Jamis against Alex Rawls. And that was probably the best match to see, but it was electric. The Colonel's bench was fired up. After Cash defeated Alex Rawls, Matt Guy hops up. He's high-fiving like he's a teenager. And everyone is just picking up Cash Jamis. I love the vibe that I saw for them. So I expected fully to see them come back and be in first place. So kind of a shocker there at 8-12. I remember the Missouri Mays. They had some strong draft trades, getting rid of Ryan Windsor and picking up Jackson Gore. So 7-8. They can't be too thrilled with that. The Bully Baggers, I loved what they did in the draft. I fully expect them to stay there the rest of the season. I don't really know what else to do with the Spinners. I wasn't happy with their draft. Seeing them at 1-14, I don't know. I kind of feel like that's where we're going to stay.
Yeah, and honestly, they may start trading for, the difference this year is that people are now able to trade draft picks. So do they immediately go into a rebuild mode and start trading draft picks and starting to acquire some draft picks and trading away players? They become, sellers, if you're using the true term that other sports would use. They become sellers where other teams are looking to become buyers, right? So it'd be interesting to see if any trades happen between now and the next event.
American North, we got the Woodchucks at 11-4, the Ringers at 10-5, Aviators 6-9, and Marauders at 2-13. Trey.
How about them Woodchucks, baby? Let's go. Atop the division, love to see the Woodchucks there. Not a lot of change in this except for the Woodchucks, and then the Aviators kind of switch places with them. So the Marauders' disappointment, again, they went into the draft saying, we're just going to take no rookies, nobody draft. They traded all their draft picks on draft day to get people, and right now not working out to their favor. So going to be interesting to see what they do, but I do think, trading away Fisher Hamilton off of the Aviators obviously has had some level of effect on them. Him and Gavin Connor were kind of the staple of that Aviator team and not able to take advantage there. So that's just something I'm keeping an eye on. But the Woodchucks, Jimmy Humans, Jeremiah Ellis and company, they keep rolling.
And lastly, the American South, we got the Coasters at 16-4, the Cutters at 12-8, the Freeze at 9-11, and the Sliders at 7-13. Wally.
Yeah, so the Coasters kind of had the same mentality that the Woodchucks did going into the draft as far as playing into the format a little bit better. You don't start everyone on your roster, and they're perfectly fine with that. They wanted to have the strongest starting squads possible so that way they can win the singles and then take down at least 3 out of the 5 tournaments every single week, and it's paid off for them. Tommy Sliker wasn't very happy, tore off his jersey, threw it on the ground, so the Coasters suck, but ultimately those trades seemed to work out. The Marauders at one point came over with the Coasters, and they're like, we want to trade you the rest of our picks for these players. And Jamie Graham was like, man, I don't want to get rid of Frank Modlin, but how can I turn this down? So you look at some of these teams that really didn't buy into the draft and other teams that fully embraced it, and this is what we're seeing. Coasters, Woodchucks, Burn, and I still think the Colonels, for that matter, all put themselves in pretty good position. The Freeze, I expected more out of them sitting there at 9-11. I was a Freeze fan last year. It just looks different. It looks different. I do want to give credit to the Cutters. They were a worst to first situation. They look really, really good on the broadcast court. Again, I talked about Kipple and Ty Thompson. As far as the lineups go, they look like they have their stuff together. So, shout out to the Cutters here. But Coasters, I just love what they did in the draft, and it's paying off. 16-4, sitting at the top.
What good
Question.
management there by the Cutters, just being able to turn that franchise around, because they were just bottom feeders for a couple of years. They had to fight their way out of kind of some bad breaks, but I agree that I like kind of the turnaround that they've made able to make happen. So be interesting to see how teams tackle that signature number 2 in Mesa.
Yeah, question for you, Trey. So the Crew Cup atmosphere is a different than obviously singles and doubles. It's a little bit of like a party, and maybe tandem doubles too. I mean, having Corey Gilbert and Dean Norton on the same side of the board throwing together, I was like, this is going to be great, and it was. So my question to you is, in those situations, the Crew Cup and the tandem doubles, do you think that the teams that, or even how they draft or how they pick who's going to be on and play in those, do you think the energy matters more than the skill at that point? Like the being kind of in more of like a playful mode.
Well, yeah, and chemistry almost matters even more, right? Because you are literally right next to the person. And chemistry doesn't mean, and look, Dean Norton and Corey Gilbert lost. They went on the broadcast court and lost this past weekend, but who did they lose to? Colby Shearer and Matt Wilson, a team that knows how to communicate very well with one another. So I think the key is communication, but also knowing how you can pair people based on abilities, right? Because now you're also matching abilities, right? If I'm someone that tends to block a lot, I can't be paired with someone that doesn't know how to handle a block, right? And so, even if you're talking about a righty lefty, that's something else that people don't even consider, but maybe there is some consideration to be had. If I know I can collect something going right to left that you can't collect going left to right, there's just a lot more possibilities when you start talking about Crew Cup and tandem doubles of how you correctly pair people together that I think, at least for right now, a lot of people aren't considering.
Interesting. Well, we'll see how that changes over the season. let's get into buy or sell. I'll start with you, Wally. Gabriel Clausen needs to win a tournament to 21 before moving into the number 1 spot as Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, well, speaking of the Cutters, Gabriel Clausen, a big reason why the Cutters are so successful. But as far as individual gameplay goes, I think Gabriel Clausen has the ability to win a 21 tournament. But right now, it's still a three-headed race for me. I can't ignore what Zach Aiken did going into this, and Logan Dupler stepped up in doubles. So Logan Dupler and Zach Aiken are still ahead of Gabriel Clausen. Gabriel Clausen is in the discussion, but in order to leapfrog those two guys, I say yes, he does need to win a 21.
So you're buying.
I'm buying.
Trey?
Selling. He earned it. Put him at number 1. I don't need to see anything else. And look, the season's a long season. I'm not giving out the award right now. But right now, if I had to give out an award, I'd give it to him, right? I would like to see some development on doubles. The other thing that we always discount when we start talking about MVP Rookie of the Year, it does count. Like, how have you performed in that element of it as well? Because I think there is something to be said there. So, cautiously, but I got him at number 1.
Wally? Matt Guy is back.
Yeah, I think he's back, and that's a problem. I'm going to go ahead and buy that he is back, but the problem is whenever he was at this level, he wasn't good enough. He needs to be better than back. So, again, I want to see that blocker. I want to see more strategy involved. But yes, I'm buying Matt Guy's back.
So you're saying he's back to his best form, but
he's
think
back
that
to his best form, which isn't good enough.
Isn't good enough. Okay, Trey?
Yeah, no, I think he's back as well. I would – maybe disagree that I don't think he can get it done. I do think it could get it done, right? I mean, he almost got it done this weekend, right? And it wasn't, and I'll be very adamant, like when Matt Guy lost to Gabriel Clausen, it was not because stylistically he was not as good, right? That is not why he lost that game. He lost because he blew 2 bags in round 1 off the back of the board, gave up a 6, and then was playing from behind in a 12-round limited game to a player that's really, really good. So yeah. I think on average, Matt Guy won't finish as well as some of the best players in the game when it comes to, being able to consistently be there at the top of finishes. But I do think he's back, and would not shock me if in singles he wins something. And hell, if Brett Guy keeps throwing the way he's throwing, it wouldn't shock me if they're in contention to win something on the double side as well.
Chicago Spinners need to initiate some trades, Wally.
Yeah, I'm buying this. You can't really trade captains. Otherwise, I say go after Tony Smith and just bring the super team over the Spinners. So, I mean, that'd be collusion, I guess, if the captain trades himself to the new team. But I don't know what they need to do or who they need to go after. I just think that they have one of the best players that we've ever seen in the game. And then maybe some A minuses, B pluses. We need more A pluses on that squad.
Trey.
Yeah, I think you try it. And if signature number 2 just goes just as bad, then I think you got to turn into a selling team, meaning that you got to start getting some draft picks, trying to prep for the new season, try to see if you can bolster your roster, get some good value out of it, and look forward to next season. But yeah, it's gonna be tough. You got to push the reset button somehow.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much what the Kentucky Colonels did this season, and we'll see if it pays off. Mark Richards and Tony Smith will win at least 2 more signature events, Wally.
I'm going to sell this. It's way too hard. They looked really, really good. I did see a couple of hiccups that they were able to get away with because it was round limited format. Overall, they're the best team in the league right now, but winning 2 signatures in the race of 21, it's going to be very hard. They're going to have to be clean the entire bracket. Trey?
I'm going to buy it. And this is part of the reason I'm going to buy that they'll win at least 2 more. I got a text this morning from Mark Richards that said, have you guys done a round on ACL yet? And I said, no, we haven't yet. And he said, okay, I'll just read it. I'm going to read it. The only thing I wanted to tell you that you might like to hear before is I think I am filling my role, or at least trying to fill my role of being a teacher/role model type of person to Tony better this year than I did last year. We're communicating really well before, during, and after matches. So that tells me stylistically there is a difference in there and how they are approaching the game last year to this year. And on top of that, they're throwing as good as they could possibly do. What could we have possibly seen this weekend to tell me that in every game that they played, they weren't far and away the best team on the court. Nothing. They were just flat out better than everybody else. Amid everything going on, no matter what happened, Tony Smith threw a negative DPR on the broadcast court. Didn't matter. They got it done. I just don't see right now a way in which they fall off. And so because of that, playing my odds, I'll take 2 more out of the 5.
We're worried about Gavin Cano's ability to finish, Wally.
I'm going to sell it. From what I saw on the broadcast court, it was the same situation with Matt Guy. They just kept bleeding twos. I talked about how aggressive I want to see Gavin Cano stay. He had a good run. I think he was one of these players that was afraid of the fast courts, and it ended up costing him. And then Gabriel Clausen caught heat at the right time, so he got double dipped, lost a singles bracket. But I love what I'm seeing out of Gavin Cano. But again, I want him to stay the entire tournament the same. Play aggressive at times, pick your shots, believe in yourself. Other than that, once you get away from that game, you're not the same player. So give me the good version of Gavin, sorry. I'm gonna sell it.
You did a Meesh right there. Combining the first and last name. I do it all the time. Trey?
I did.
I'm gonna give like the worst answer here. I think I'll say bye. And it's not so much a finishing problem, but I do think there is an element to Gavin's mentality when he approaches the game that is similar to what Tony Smith and Jacob Trzynski used to have. And for the most part, Tony and Jacob have been able to get over that. Exhibit A, Jacob Trzynski, foot foul, like all of a sudden, Wally said it. We all expected the wheels to fall off. But he was able to get rid of it, focus, and then reset for the next game. I do think that Gavin doesn't need to tweak much, but I do think there's an element of his game where he just kind of needs to take that next step on the mental side of the game to be a little bit more mentally tough to go from really, really good to great. So I do think that finishing problem insinuates that he's just choking. And so that's not the right way that I would put it, but I do think there's some mental growth that could happen with Cano.
I mean, Gabriel went on to win the entire tournament. So getting double dipped by the guy who wins the entire tournament is kind of like, all right, he was the best player that weekend. I mean, it happens. It just luck of the draw of who goes in what bracket. The problem I look at with Gavin is that when he's teamed up with Sammy, you're getting zero expression out of those two guys. You know, if you take Mark and Tony, you take Jake and Jamie, even Devin and Jeremiah, they hit a big shot, they're fired up. You know, you need to do something to fire yourself up and get in the moment. Otherwise, you can only think about the negative and go down that path of, oh, no, we're giving up 2 points every round. We're in trouble.
I love it. I love partner dynamics. Let's go, Wally. Good point. All right, hot takes. You got one, Trey?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how super hot it is, but I really liked what I saw out of Jamie Graham this weekend. I expect him to get a signature singles and a signature doubles title throughout the rest of this season. And I think he will be top 3 on the MVP ballot come the end of the year. Super consistent and like the flow. Expect him to be right there at the end.
Wally?
I mean, just because let's get spicy, right? I'm going to go Mark and Tony don't win another signature the rest of the season.
Okay. All right. Mine is that Riker Wells is the greatest player to ever have played Quiplash. No one will beat him.
He knows his role. What can I say?
He definitely knows his role. They could be wheat, Hawaiian, whatever.
Oh my God.
All right. That's all we got time for. We love you, Riker. And we'll see you guys all next time.